Welcome back to Vocation Bible School. This is week 2, day 1. Today we're going to be talking about Christianity in the workplace and all that entails. Work ethic, integrity, being on time for work, just uprightness in the workplace. And I have interviewed my pastor and my husband, and so you don't have to just hear from me. They both hire people in their places of work, and so I've asked them some questions about the hiring process that I think might help you as you start looking for a job and taking jobs. We're going to jump right in with a couple verses that I would really strongly recommend that you memorize. They are found in Colossians 3, 23, and 24. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ that you are serving. I guarantee that at some point in your life, you will be working for someone, even if you're the boss, that you find very hard to like or listen to or respect. But God says not to do the work to please them. Focus on pleasing Him. Pour your heart into the work, doing the very best that you know how. That is what God blesses. Humans might continue to treat you poorly no matter what you do. But if you're doing the work to glorify God, He will reward you. And I promise, His reward is so much better than anything any human could ever give you or do for you. Even if you don't receive your reward while you're still on earth, it's coming, and we know that it is because God promised that it is. And it will be worth the wait. Keep reminding yourself of this. And when it's hard to remind yourself, ask God to remind you. He will do that in some pretty amazing ways. So what does it even mean to work hard? Initiative, perseverance, motivation, being on time, and getting along with all of your coworkers all play into this. Let's start with taking the initiative. Initiative is simply doing something that needs to be done without being asked to do it. When I worked at the telephone company, from time to time, I would get caught up on my work. When this happened, I was still on the clock, so my employer was still paying me. So I would get up and organize something that needed to be organized. Or I would go ask a coworker what I could do to help them with their load. I guarantee if you'll do something like that, you will stand out from your peers. And if you're doing it because you're a Christian and you want His light to shine, then consider His light shone, and He will reward you. Perseverance. Oh, mercy. It is so hard to keep on keeping on when your boss doesn't treat everyone equally, when your boss hates you because you're a Christian, when your boss isn't organized and your work becomes chaotic. It is so hard to keep on keeping on when you're tired, when you have drama in your personal life. Heck, it can be hard to keep on keeping on when you're hungry. But do it. Remember that your testimony for Christ is of utmost importance. And remember that your testimony for Christ should point to how good He is, not how good you are. My mama used to remind us that your testimony takes years to build up, to gain trust, to make people see that Jesus is real in your life and He is good. But it just takes seconds to destroy your testimony. Guard your testimony. A good way to do this is to persevere in your hard work, doing it the way you're told to. Now, obviously, if your boss is telling you to do something that goes against what the Bible says or what the Holy Spirit is telling you, obviously don't do it that way. But for the most part, you will need to do things the way your boss says to, even if you don't agree. Be on time. For heaven's sake, be on time. If you find out that your boss is not going to fuss when you come in 10 minutes late, but you know that he wants you there 10 minutes early, which do you think integrity demands of you? Of course you need to be there on time. Being on time means actually getting there a little early so that you can get set up and gather the things you need to actually start work on time. Get up 10 minutes earlier if you need to. Consistently being late is a surefire way to ruin your testimony for Christ. Be on time.
I do all open-ended questions. I want to find out things like how much the applicant has researched and knows about our organization.
The kind of questions that I would ask in an interview that I'd want to know about to begin with would be something about the individual's personal thoughts and beliefs. And I would want to talk to them about things like, tell me a little bit about who you are. Tell me a little bit about your background and your experience. Tell me a little bit about what shapes you and what makes you think the way that you think. And then I would want to talk to them about, talk to me about your experiences. What kind of experiences have you had individually, with your family, with friends, in school? Talk to me about your experiences working and having a job or having any type of responsibility. Tell me what kind of clubs, what kind of social groups have you been involved in? And that would give me a really clear picture of the type of person that I was talking to, and to give me a better understanding of perhaps maybe why they believe the way they believe and why they think the way they think. And I would begin certainly with the person that they are. And I'd want to know a little bit about how those experiences shape them into the person that they are right now. Then I would want to talk to them very clearly about expectations. I'd want to know, what do you expect of yourself? What do you expect of your job performance? What do you expect of the job that I'm interviewing you for? What do you think it means to hold this job? Do you understand the responsibility and the privilege of holding this job? A lot of times I have found when I talk to candidates and people about jobs of all different types, from internships to actual positions, that a lot of times they really have unrealistic views about their own abilities. And so I'd want to know those kind of things about the individual. Obviously, I'd want to talk to them about areas where they feel like they have skills. Where are you strong in your skills? What kind of proficiencies do you have? Computer-related skills, communication skills. What kind of thinking do you do? Are you a critical thinker? Are you one of these people that just sort of goes along with the flow? Are you able to think outside the box? Are you creative? Are you the kind of person that follows through with assignments? If I ask you to give me a 10, will you bring me a 12, or will you always bring me an 8? And so I would make sure then that they understood what the expectations were and what I want from them. I think we need to make sure that as we have an interview about a job, that the expectations are very, very clear, that we know that we match the type person that we're trying to hire, and the person hiring onto a job is the kind of person that fits the job that they're applying for. And so in the interview process, I'm going to ask the kind of questions that probably delve more into the person's character and the human being that they are and the way that they think, probably even more than the actual skills. On a lot of jobs, I feel like skills are something that can be taught. But for a lot of people, you cannot teach them character. You cannot teach them initiative. You cannot teach them honesty. They've got to bring that to the job. When I talk to an applicant, I want to know about the kind of person that they are. I want to know what kind of character do they have. Character is the person that you are when no one is looking, when no one's checking up on you. Can you be trusted? Are you honest? I want to know those kind of things about an applicant. I want to know if it's someone that I can actually invest in. Can I invest my time in them, my expertise, my experience, and my knowledge, and know that this is the kind of person that's going to take that seriously, and I'm going to get a return on my investment that I've put into this individual, that they're going to make the team better, they're going to make the business better, they're going to help us fulfill our mission, and it will not only make a difference in my life and in the life of the team or the business, but it'll make a difference in the life of the applicant as well. So I'd be looking for some of those type things, that what shapes them, their experiences, and their character say a lot to me about the type person that I'd be wanting to hire.
I start with their resume and application to look to see if they have typos and grammatical errors. Is it well organized? And then as they come in for the interview, how are they dressed? Are they dressed professionally, or wearing clothes that are at least what they would wear on the job? If not, usually a step above that is what I would look for on how they present themselves, or how confident are they? How do they answer the questions? Do they come in well prepared for the interview? Do they have extra materials, like resumes, and maybe a portfolio that shows some of the work they've been involved with in the past? Or do they have their own questions to ask? I want to know what they expect in the job, what they expect the job is going to be like, see if their expectations line up with the way things really are. I want to try to learn as much as I can about their personal ethics, make sure they line up with my ethics that I'll be using to manage the park. Of course, it's very important because once they're on the clock being paid, that's not their time anymore. On time is ready to work. You've already come in and you've put your lunch or your coat or whatever you need to get stored away and done what you need to do to start with the task that you've been paid to do.
A good work ethic is very important. In the world in which we live today, most people do not have much of a work ethic whatsoever. And so for someone that's out there hiring someone to join their team, to come into their business, if they can find someone with a work ethic, it puts that person head and shoulders above everyone else. Now, by work ethic, I mean things like this. Somebody who's on time. If you're not on time, you've already proven the priority that you have about yourself, your skills, and the job that I've hired you to. You've got to be on time. Not only do you have to be on time, you've got to show up prepared, ready to do your job, wearing what we ask you to wear, doing what we've asked you to do, preparing things in advance, being able to have conversations where you can add value to the team and value to the company or the position that we've hired you for. It doesn't matter what it is, from the most entry-level position to the higher-level positions. We need you to add value to what it is that we're doing. And without a good work ethic, you'll not be able to do that. That's the type of work ethic that people are looking for today. And because of that, they're willing to pay top dollar for that kind of work ethic. Too many times, though, the work ethic we see in our world today is people want to be paid very high wages for minimal work. One of the biggest problems, honestly, that we have when it comes to all these kind of things is found in our pocket, and that's these smartphones that we have. A lot of employers that I know have had to let their employees go because they can't stay off their smartphone. They waste lots of company time on social media and Amazon and shopping and text messaging and Snapchatting rather than spending time on their job. And so work ethic means I don't get distracted. It means I stay focused on the task at hand until it's finished. So someone that has a great work ethic in our world today is like finding a unicorn. It's like finding Bigfoot in the woods. It's just a unique thing. But when you find that person with a strong work ethic, then those people become very valuable to your team and to your business.
Absolutely. I don't need employees that don't show integrity. I want somebody that can see and comprehend the big picture. I mean, I will give them a scope of work and a vision, but I like for my employees to use the gifts and the brain that they're given to be able to come up with their own ideas, be able to have their own vision within the scope and vision that I give them. And I like for them to be able to see the little things. One example might be if I give an employee assignment and there's a sack of trash that flew out of the car on the side of the road, I would expect them to go ahead and pick that up and not wait on somebody else to do it. Anything small that could still make the park a better place, I'd like to see them take it upon themselves to do that.
Does this person see things that need to be done and does them before they have to be asked? In other words, they see a task that perhaps someone else left undone. They see something in advance that's coming down the road or coming ahead of a deadline that needs to be done. And instead of waiting on someone else to get it done, they have the wherewithal and the foreknowledge to go out there and get that done. They are a self-starter. They take initiative. They've got to be able to take initiative. Without initiative, you can't do anything in the workplace. It doesn't matter where you work or the kind of job that you hold. Every job requires that you begin with initiative. You've got to have the wherewithal to be able to get out of bed, to be on time, to be a person that can be counted on. Perseverance is a characteristic that many people simply do not have in our world today. Perseverance means the ability to endure, the ability to keep on going, though you may face obstacles and opposition. It's not giving up. And yet we live in a world where giving up is the easiest thing to do. In fact, our world teaches us if it's not just the way that you want it to be, if people don't listen to you, if they don't follow your agenda, if they don't go along with your personal preferences, then you ought to walk away. When it comes to business, it's never about us. You see, we have a mission that we have to fulfill. When we are hired, we're hired to fulfill a mission, to be able to do a job that we've been entrusted with. And the only way to get that done is to persevere. There are always going to be hard times. There's always going to be challenges. There will always be challenging people that you have to work beside, work under, or even work above and have to lead. But regardless, you cannot give up. Because when you give up, you miss the opportunity to see the results. When you persevere, especially through a difficult time or through a hard experience, when you get on the other side of that and you see the results of having not given up, it gives you great fulfillment, completion, satisfaction, joy, and it makes you a valuable member of the team. Anybody can give up. It takes somebody special to persevere.
That's extremely important. The Bible tells us that the world knows that we're Christians by the way we love each other. So that's, I think, one of the biggest ways that we show that to the world, by how we get along with others. By following through their assigned task, by aligning their visions with the visions I've set for the park.
No one wants to be fired. No employer likes firing anyone on their team, even when they deserve it. But the truth of the matter is, if there is an employee that cannot show up on time and is habitually late, someone that continually misses deadlines simply because they're too distracted or they don't focus or they don't care enough about what we're doing to meet the deadlines. Someone that you've talked to several times and you've come to agreements on what does the job entail, what is your responsibility, and they continue to ignore direction and authority, and they continue to show disrespect to that authority and the one who has position over them, or someone who is continually showing us they can't be trusted. They are not honest. And to be honest with you, they may even be a thief of time, of product. And when you find these kind of things in people, you can't let those things go. But you got to let them go. Because the mission is bigger than any one person. The business is bigger than any one person. It doesn't matter what level, from the CEO to the most entry-level individual. And so when we allow an atmosphere where people are slacking on the job, not fulfilling what their requirements are, that spreads like a disease throughout an organization, be it a volunteer organization, a church, or a business. And so oftentimes when people get fired, they want to blame the employer. They want to say it's the employer's fault or people weren't fair to them. But let's be honest. Most of the time when someone gets fired, it's a choice they made. A personal choice they made. They didn't want to show up on time. They didn't want to do what was expected of them. They didn't want to follow the direction. They did not want to be a team player. They did not want any of those things. And so they had to be let go. They're not victims. They've simply made that choice for themselves and sometimes even for their families.
I think the biggest thing is just acting like everybody else. We're to be set apart as Christians.
If I wasn't a Christian and I hired someone that was a professing Christian, and I began to watch their life and I realized that they were living like everyone else in my business and in my company or with their team who were not Christians, they did nothing to stand out. They didn't talk about their faith at all. They were not honest. They didn't show love to others. They didn't show respect. They didn't do their job as working unto the Lord first. Then I would have to look at that person and say, then the faith that they claimed is probably not real. I think a person of faith has to be different in the world in which they live. On the job, in the school, on the team, whatever it is. We ought to live differently. We ought to be able to be counted on. We ought to be the honest person. We ought to be the person of integrity. We ought to be the person that shows up first and leaves last. We ought to give everybody the best of ourselves and our abilities and our skills. But if you have that employee that says, I'm a Christian and they're lazy, or I'm a Christian and they lie, or I'm a Christian and they're always laughing at jokes that are inappropriate, or saying things or doing things that are inappropriate, then I'm going to look at that and say, well, their faith is simply not real. And it would push me away from this Jesus that they say they claim to love, this Jesus they claim to follow, this church business that they say is important to them, because there's nothing about their lives that prove any of that's true. In the Christian world, we call that bearing fruit. And the truth of the matter is the lost person doesn't know what that means, but they know it when they experience it in the life of a Christian. You cannot deny the fruit that we bear, the spiritual fruit that we bear, because it's a blessing not only to us, but it's a blessing to everyone around us. And when that fruit is not there and it's not present, it turns people away from the things of God.